Well, you just heard some of our polling, and if we zero in on your home state, a key battleground, we see that Vice President Harris is trailing Donald Trump by just 1 point. Donald Trump is expected to be visiting the border with Mexico in your state at some point in the coming days. Our CBS polling shows 48% of registered voters believe that if Harris wins the election, border crossings will increase. How much of a liability is that perception in Arizona?
Well, Margaret, first of all, thank you for having me on. With regards to the border, just like so many other issues, the contrast between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris could not be more clear. I mean, Kamala Harris has supported our bipartisan border security bill that Donald Trump told Senate Republicans to run away from. So she's been working on this issue. Border crossings on the Arizona border are down substantially. She's been focused on this issue where the former president is trying to undermine our border security. I mean, he specifically told my Senate colleagues that they could not support this bill because he wanted to have this issue for the election. I've never seen anything like this before, you know, my 3.5 years in the United States Senate. And I think it shows that Kamala Harris is the leader that can bring us into the future. Donald Trump just wants to, drag us back into the past.
Do you have any idea where the border ranks for Vice President Harris? Because she hasn't talked about it much on the campaign trail to date. She has said she wanted to revive the legislation you just talked about. She also said something about comprehensive reform with an earned pathway to citizenship. Is this a first 100 days priority for her?
Well, I've heard her talk about it. You know, I was at an event in Glendale, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix the other day with my wife, Gabby Giffords. 15,000 people in the room, a lot of excitement. You know, we discussed this, specifically myself and the vice president about, how the border is an important issue, especially for border states, the state of Arizona that I represent. And it's not only border security. I mean, Kamala Harris really wants to reform our immigration system. Our immigration system helps support our economy. And I expect, that she will be focused on this after she's elected president.
Well, you need the rest of the Congress to agree to follow that path. And you know that's been an impediment to date.
That has, with Donald Trump still in the picture. Once he is done and gone, I really believe that my Senate colleagues, the Republicans in the United States Senate, will get back onto this bill because they negotiated it. And this wasn't meeting them on the 50-yard line on this issue. This was meeting them on the 10-yard line on their side of the field. And we almost had it done until Donald Trump said they were not allowed to vote for the bill. So I expect her to, to help us get this across the finish line. And she said she would sign it.
So back during your 2022 Senate debate, you said Democrats don't understand the border issue. You talked about how you had to stand up to President Biden yourself when he was creating what you called a bigger crisis by taking a, quote, dumb move by lifting Title 42 pandemic-era restrictions without a backup plan in place. Do you hold Vice President Harris responsible for those decisions as well? And how do you tell your fellow Arizonans to dismiss it when you said that was a legitimate complaint?
Well, back in 2022, when we, had what I would consider a crisis on our southern border, I talked about this with my Senate colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans, and with the White House. And it was those discussions that enabled us to get to the point where we were able to negotiate a bipartisan agreement. And it addressed so many different things. It was going to provide more Border Patrol agents, more Border Patrol pay, money to build facilities to temporarily hold migrants. So this legislation had a lot of things, in effect. And it
didn't get done.
It was a reasonable compromise. It didn't get done because of Donald Trump.
But do you,
not
when
because
you
of
were
the
saying
administration.
when you were saying Democrats don't understand this issue, do you think Vice President Harris understands this issue?
Yeah, she does, absolutely. And I think when we talk about some of the Democrats in the United States Senate that weren't really getting it in 2022, now they get it. And that's why we were going to be able to provide I think the plan was we were going to provide about 40 votes, the Republicans about 20. We would get the legislation passed, and then we could move on to some of the other stuff that Vice President Harris has talked about, which is comprehensive immigration reform.
Yeah.
But again, Donald Trump, he just wants to talk about this issue, and so do my Senate Republicans, by the way. Right after J.D. Vance became the nominee, what did he do? He went down to the southern border in Arizona to take a picture. He doesn't actually want to fix this. Kamala Harris will fix this problem.
Let me ask you about Ukraine. I know